they played the Yasuo Diana. They have been about the individual picks rather than necessarily what's in the meta. They're sticking to their Rakan ban. It's the third ban that's been really toyed around with on both sides. LDLC, they went between the LeBlanc and the Wukong, and with that, this should be a super easy lock-in. I think that one makes a lot of sense. It's something that Vox has had a whole lot of value, and it's been the centerpiece, this cornerstone of what Dusty have done with their long-range engages, being able to chase down an over-eager 2v2 from X-Kick or DOS or any other number of applications.
I will say, though, you are leaving up with the Wukong and the Sejuani. We saw how powerful that was for Dusty in game number 1. How great of a combination that was able to be. Would be very surprised to see if we don't see it. Of course, the Ahri has been in first rotations or second rotations for the side of LDLC this entire series. Ike get his 4th game in a row now on the champion.
And you can understand why. He is a very proficient player of the champion. Even in that last game, a lot of the good moments from LDLC came out of an opportunistic charm, landing onto backline, playing these higher variance chances to just say, look, we've got to get a pick somewhere. And it almost worked for them in some cases, even when they were far behind. But Yike is going to pick up the Wukong this time. Little teamfight impact. It is still something that has to dive into the enemy composition. It is very committal. A little bit less than the Jarvan, because at least you got that clone to get out of places from, but it's still LDLC. Looking to go face first with the jungler into the fray. Well,
Dusty now can pick up their support if they so choose, or look to match into mid and jungle. Plenty of options available to them.
Well, what's going to happen with the Sejuani, actually? Because this is a pick which both teams have been prioritizing very heavily. It was banned a couple of times, but Dusty actually say, so about that Sejuani thing,
we don't care.
You ain't going to pick it into us. Locking in that Jack straight away. Kerberos, again, much more self-sufficient. Had great presence in the team fights with the counter-strikes, too. We didn't really have to focus on him that game. Of course, in Game 2, he was the focus, because he kind of
we forget about Game 2. We just gave LDLC a win, and we moved on with that game.
Oh, now this is really interesting, because now you have no chance of a Sylas coming in to steal something like a Sejuani ult, stealing something like a Trundle or whatever else would have come in from Dusty, because the Ahri's already locked in. You already know your jungle matchup, and this means that you don't get to scale up into relevance on that Sejuani with the same strong laning phase of that Sejuani on the side of LDLC. I think that's a fairly intelligent Sejuani takeaway.
And I love this as well, because it's kind of forcing LDLC away from an AD carry pick here on 3 and kind of saying, look, we've our Sivir. You either need to pick your top laner or your AD carry. You do not get to pick both. You need to prioritize which one you want. The Ornn gives them a hell of a team flying product. And they need to ban Sylas. They need to ban it straight away. You cannot let this out. Yeah, thank you very much, LDLC. There are way too many good ultimates there. That Sylas has to be taken off the board.
This is Ragnar's Ornn, one of the very best Ornns at this level in the ERLs. And this is also something, I mean, we, particularly in that last game, and also earlier in this draft, we were talking about how the Jarvan and this Wukong are very committal engaged. You got to throw your body right in there. Ornn ult stops you from doing that. It means you can just use that to kind of look for those non-committal engages, try and see if it works out first, and then follow up if it looks good afterwards. It allows them to take an extra step back and see how things work. But LDLC targeting the mid lane pool, Dusty going towards that bot lane and saying, all right, no Draven. Wonder what they think of the Aphelios. The Aphelios hasn't had the most impact. It was pretty okay in game 1, actually. Of course, they ended up losing, but X-Kick, huge all-time player of that Aphelios, may still be worth removing it.
That is 5 mid lane bans coming in here from the side of LDLC. Again, it just kind of speaks to what the Jamato was saying on the desk. The silent sleeper carry on this side of Dusty has been Backlund. It has been about him.
He was our all-pro mid laner from Summer. This guy has been so good. Now, you're banning away some of the more tricky picks for Ahri to play into. You can look for something that can get priority in a couple of scenarios. Lissandra can occasionally do it. Zoe is difficult in this competition. I wouldn't really be suggesting that. If you go way back, maybe something like Vex as well. That was something that used to win the level 1 fairly well. On the other side, Exakick locking in the Twitch. That's something which does have a bit more of that ability to hit that front line. Play a little bit more around skirmishing, which these teams have been known to do in this series. Now LDLC maybe threatening a Yuumi last pick as well, actually, with that, because of course that's been unbanned the whole way through, just saying, all right, you don't lock in something that can deal with it in lane. Yuumi's going to come in straight through that, so Stand maybe thinking about that one. Okay, all right, we are actually getting the hover of that Vex. It's something that Backlund played a lot back in spring, brings it out right now, and as we were saying, it does do well into the Ahri level 1, which potentially allows Linsus to have a bit more freedom to work around, because it's not a winning jungle matchup early versus the Wukong.
And the big thing as well is that it's not about the mid lane. It's not actually been about the 1v1 at all. It's been about how they've been able to leverage that to try and get out onto the side lanes, because bot lane has been a massive issue for LDLC, specifically specifically in that last game when Exekick was focused, he couldn't perform, and that just meant that with all these CCs, how is he going to get out alive?
This is game 17, I believe, of Nautilus from Stend in summer. And now if you're sat here as DOS, you don't really want to have to lock in Yuumi. Oh, actually, that Braum hover, that could actually be huge, because you're looking at a, you know, effectively 4 diver / almost melee composition. That would be really, really hellish to dive into. Reaching the Twitch is the name of the game, and the Braum puts up a door between you and them. It's just not going to be the Yuumi. So LDLC, they threaten it and say that. It's the Braum instead. Reaching that Twitch, actually going to be a bit of an issue. Very interesting to seeing how Dusty approach the 5v5s, because they have a lot of they have the damage needed, but getting it onto the targets, that's going to be risky.
That's the big thing I'm looking at right now. You look at these two teams, massive ultimates that can change the course of a team fight. Of course, the Cyclone from the Wukong. You, of course, have the ultimate from the Vex as well. And you know, just single target CCs coming with the Fears. If you can get onto either of these AD carries, you can take over the fight. It's going to be about which AD carry survives the longest.
And outside of that as well, I think there's a second mode of play. So you got the 5v5s. If you're looking at these skirmishes, if Ragnar and DOS are not matching the map, this is going to go hellishly wrong from LDLC, because if one Sejuani ult lands, if one Nautilus...
World, it's going to come down to how you play these, and now with LDLC, for the first time this series going on to the red side, we wait to see what they've got for them, but Dusty... They've got themselves a lifeline. You're effectively in a best of 2 where all you have to win is one of those games, because you have that extra win. You have got the 2-1 scoreline, and you're the ones on match point.
So, one thing to just cut off here very quickly is that there are potentials at level 1 here. We've got 2 very strong level 1s on your supports. Of course, Vex very good at that too. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the dancing at the top side instead. Ragnar, Kerberos fanning out into that 5-man group. And what we see instead is actually Stend placing a ward down, warding out that level 1. They see DOS, so that means that they know Exekick will be there too. Ica shows they know what's happened with these wards level 1.
Got to be so wary of a Twitch with that little bit of invisibility or camouflage, whatever it is called. It's annoying.
Ambush, I believe Q is called.
Yes, but the status of which he goes into visibility. Yeah, you know those different varying levels of invisibility. It's like there's camouflage.
No see unless you close.
Yeah, pretty much. Do you remember, okay, but maybe not, but like years ago, probably like season 1, you used to be able to pick up Sunfire capes on Evelyn,
yes.
and you could stack
Teemo as well.
So you could just sit beside people, and they would just passively lose health. So, you know, good that they lost that.
So what we're seeing here is junglers starting on opposite sides of the map. Something that happened actually during last year was something that we saw quite a lot in terms of junglers. If they start on the same side, they want to really be playing to win through jungle matchup and then try and get yourself jungle advantage through that. It's really when you're playing against that, when you're playing opposite sides, what can you do to the enemy lanes on the other side of the map? See then Voxer and Stend, I don't think they're likely to get engaged onto by Exekick and DOS, so you're going to have less options on the bot side of the map if he does end up down there and has time spare to figure things out. But interested in seeing now what these two junglers can achieve early.
Right now, we've seen this a couple of times now. You'll always see the level 2 kind of go straight away over to Dusty. And speaking of level 2s, Ragnar does have a little bit of a delay before his does come out, but Exekick, it's going to be pretty hard to lock down. That's where we're going to try to see where these junglers end up going, because Yike hasn't really had the same level of impact. Speaking of impact, Ragnar and Kerberos going toe-to-toe. Very dangerous at the top side.
One thing which I'm actually kind of interested in seeing is if we see the bot lane pressure keep up, whether we actually see potentially Den Voxner and Stend looking towards securing the Scuttle Crab for themselves. Of course, Nautilus can just stun that crab in place and fight around that. Whereas potentially Linces can go take up that top side Scuttle instead. Particularly when you have a lane which can take Scuttle Crab very easily. It does add that extra factor onto the map, although I think with Exekick and DOS being able to follow to play with the Twitch Q, that ambush, maybe fairly risky to do so unless Backline is also at the party.
It's all just calm before the storm. This has been the pretty much standard here for the start of these few games, apart from the junglers going towards that top side where we generally see things moving in the favor of either Ragnar or Kerberos, but it's still very difficult to see how you really make something stick. It's an Ornn, it's a Jax, very hard to get something. And even the bot side, the Braum, like you mentioned earlier, so difficult to get behind that door and really put down some damage here onto Exekick. So see what the junglers end up going for.
Did Kerberos just go and stun the top's crab to make it quicker for Linces? I'm actually trying to see what happened there. Can we just go quickly down to that crab? Can we just quickly see it, if it has the shield back up? Oh, no. I was actually wondering if he did something big brain. Of course, it doesn't matter as much.
I was
because,
going to
like,
say, it's big brain, but he doesn't need it.
Yeah, no, but I was like, he already had that free time. I was wondering if he was going to just do a little bit of damage to the Scuttle Crab just to see if that could happen. Yike is actually going to head over towards bot side. He actually doesn't have his bot lane in lane, but this is something that Yike does very often. He does this a lot of time in the LFL, where you will see him finish his clear, his first clear, and although he could reset for a little bit of tempo, he chooses to go in for a ward as well. Funny thing here, though, is actually Linces has done exactly the same thing on the top side of the map. Both of these junglers getting information on these enemy quadrants of the map, and honestly, this is great, because coming into this, I think a lot of people will have been looking at Yike. They would know Yike's name. They know him as one of the best players in the ERLs, maybe the best player in the ERL. This player which being looked at by scouts, potentially by the LEC, but Linces, I don't think he's been the lesser jungler today. I think he has had a fantastic series. He has a... They've traded information once again, though. Both these junglers getting those wards down. Thank you, observers, for showing that one. Both of these junglers, higher impact though they may be on their teams and in this series, they're going to be spotted out. They have information on them for the next minute or two.
Be careful on this bot side, as Exakick recognizes that DOS was on a little bit of a warding mission. They have pretty damn good information of exactly where the Sejuani is, so not really in any kind of danger as of the moment. We'll say the level advantage will go over to Dusty, because Sten did not leave the lane, so he's able to get up to level 4 versus DOS. You just have to accept that he's going to be about a quarter of a level or so as Sten. It's dangerous, but he's still Spider-Man, so, you know, he's amazing. He is.
Not Ultimate, not the other Comet Rangers. No. I can't remember.
He's amazing.
Lovely. I think he's pretty good too. He's all right. Pretty okay at this champion. Played an awful lot of it, of course. We are yet to see really any of these butting of heads. I'm trying to think who this favors the most. I think that with Exakick and DOS on the Twitch and the Braum, you're very happy to be sat in lane and not be contesting too much. Speaking of that, though, that's what they're looking for here, looking to prop that Braum passive.
Yeah, they're going to be able to kind of get on the Denbox now, who does a very nice little spell shield there. Needs to be a bit more careful, though, because there's going to be Ignite. He's not going to go down just yet. It's not going to be enough. No, it's not going to be enough. And he's going to be able to keep himself alive. But Yike does burn his flash in favor of gaining Denboxen. So summoner advantage going over to LDLC for the moment.
Yeah, it's fairly hard to play around bot side. You are looking for a bit of an overextension to get that Braum passive down with Twitch's expunge coming through at the same time. But that is a clutch flash from Denboxen. If that comes out half a second later, just a little bit more, that'll be an extra Q coming through, that crushing blow from Wukong. That would have been the death of Denboxen in this game. So, once again, that first hammer blow yet to fall in this game. And I think on the side of Dusty, I think you're fairly happy with that. On the side of Sejuani, I think Sejuani very happy to play this evenly and not see the Wukong run through different areas of the map. I think you're happy with it. In regards to your lanes as Dusty, particularly this top lane as well, you just allow your Jacks to get towards a point where they start running that side lane. On the other side, though, it's not like LDLC are particularly unfond of heading towards a 5v5 even. They have a lot of team fight tools, and if this Braum and Twitch are relevant, if they are even in this game, it's very hard to get to this Twitch and shut down Exakick.
I like what they're doing now on the side of Dusty. They're kind of recognizing that with the casualness, I should suppose, of LDLC's jungler and bot lane, they probably have a hell of a lot of information on the enemy jungler. So they're trying to just make sure that they do not give up all of that vision. You can see it's still got a plenty of it, but they've gotten rid of that big deep ward, which shall be replaced immediately by DOS. So they still keep that Bermuda triangle of 3 points in that bot side of the jungle, which means the Twitch can just, you know, chill.
Dusty should know, though, that DOS was about the map, because when you see that the enemy bot lane isn't in lane, your support should be calling, okay, support roam timing, they can go from base, they can go elsewhere. The question is, have they made connected the dots to know exactly how much vision control they have given up at that point? Talked about how Yike and Linces, after their first couple of clears, doing a great job of contesting vision on the opposite sides of the map, but LDLC have managed to keep up those efforts just a little bit more after that point. Again, really just waiting and seeing for that first big mistake, the first big opening. It looks like it could be bot lane again. You do have the on the hunt from Denboxen in danger.
Yeah, he's going to be in a lot of danger. Double flash in. He's not going to get the spell shield off in time, which means LDLC will pick up first blood. Stend shall only stand for a little bit longer, and he shall fall down. Would love one more turret shot onto DOS, but does not get it. 2 kills to LDLC.
Okay, so Dusty, they make the first mistake. It is a built play from LDLC. They build up that vision. They make sure that they know Linces not on the right area of the map. Backland doesn't have priority. Can't play around that either. The threat of the roaming Twitch and Braum kind of puts Dusty under a lot too much pressure, really, because they're sat here being like, okay, we can't play through this mid jungle because we're afraid of X-Kick turning up. And that happened a minute or two before this happens. And then suddenly that flows into getting a free run at bot side against a summonerless Voxner. Goes down.
Got greedy for those backline minions, and that means he's gonna go down. No summoners available to him, and it just feels like a little bit of a mistake there from Voxner. Not really needed to kind of go for those minions. Should have recognized, look, my jungler's on the top side, I don't have priority, but sadly it doesn't go that way, and LDLC fully capitalize onto that. They do trade back the Rift Herald though for the Mountains, so it is still 2 kills and an objective apiece.
But it is a Mount Soul onto an Ornn. That's kind of scary. Even Braum, of course, very dangerous champion with that. Oh,
the flash isn't good enough. Yes, it is. It's going to keep him at range, but this is where the matchup gets a little bit scary now for the Jack. It's going to take him a while before he's able to kind of take over that top side once again.
Yeah, particularly around that first ultimate of the game, Ornn has so much damage because at that point you're just relying on base damages rather than your scalings from items built up over that point. DOS going to spot out, stand in that brush, so they can have their recall cancel. But throughout this last minute or two, you really have to respect LDLC's macro where first couple of minutes of the game, things get very dangerous. Voxner in a dangerous position again.
Yeah, there's the Rat-a-tat-tat coming in. Doesn't actually get the expunge damage down, so Voxner playing with fire, but does get the ultimate out. And sadly for Linsus, he shall be sitting himself on awards. They know exactly where this Sejuani is, and looks like Yikes just kind of fully backing away and saying, cool, I'm going to take this time to get my jungle camps cleared, and there's not really much else for you to go for.
Yeah, Dusty staring down a bit of a vermin tide in this bot lane as sprays and prays through that Sivir. And you can see why the Sivir is going to be at risk at this point, because if you're ever pushing up, and let's be honest, Sivir can't really choose not to push. All of your abilities really are about shoving that wave and using it at that point. If that ever ends up happening in the wrong spot, though, the Twitch can punish it like very few AD carries can. But for now, Dusty managed to get away with that one, with just some damage taken onto their AD carry. They go back onto the map. Tense game so far. Only a couple of 100 gold in it. Got some gold to the solo lanes into Dusty, but of course the kills going in the favor of LDLC elsewhere on the map.
Much cagier start now for both these sides. I think LDLC recognizing they can't let this game just kind of go unchecked. Dusty, of course, don't want to let this one just roll away from them. They know how the game 2 went.
While the game is slowing down a little bit, can we just toggle over to Dusty's vision to see how well LDLC have done at blacking out this map? We can go over to Dusty's vision. Yeah, look at this. Because, see this? They have some vision around the bot side, but once this bot lane is kind of out of the picture, you are really starting to grasp at straws and think, okay, where's the All-Out kind of going to be coming in? That's up in 5 seconds. What's going to happen with X-Kick after this point? You can see that X-Kick now going back towards that bot side, but every time there's a reset, the onus is on Dusty to play safe.
Yeah, they're going to go in the hook, and they get the flash in. He's CC'd. There's nowhere for him to go. That's Dusty finally on the board, and huge play from that as well, because not only do they get the kill, they're going to get this tower as well.
How much are they going to get out of this? Twitch isn't here. They're going to get at least 4 plays. I don't think it's going to be the full turret, but that's a heck of a lot of gold going right the way over.
Yeah, they get the turret. You can't defend this. Who's going to do the damage? There's no way you can go for it.
Definitely not Braum. So this is a huge power play, because while we were looking at LDLC with this kind of unseen threat, what's happening with the Braum and the Twitch, and then obviously the longer range follow-up at the top side of the map, but it's actually Dusty that pulled the trigger on top side, because whenever your support is on the roam, the enemy support is typically doing the same thing at the same time. Stend on his most comfortable pick on the Nautilus lands a crucial max range hook after that point, flashes in for it, and suddenly getting some extra gold onto that Jax, tiding them through to that point in the game where they can be a threat in a side lane. Start threatening that Ornn is so very important for Dusty, and game on, honestly.
I mean, this is just perfect because the roam is just so much more effective. The Braum is, like you mentioned earlier, fantastic in team fights. The disengage with the Glacial Fissure, you get the concussive blows down. But in terms of roaming active supports, Nautilus just has you beat.
Yeah, call back to what happened in what we were saying very close to the end of Champion Selector was that 5v5s, a lot of ways for LDLC to play it out. But when you actually play around the skirmishes, it really is on DOS and Ragnar to be following up and being in the right position to disengage and turn the fight around. In that fight, DOS was nearby, but not quite close enough, and you can see the margins of error that we're playing around in this quarterfinals. And what a quarterfinals it has been so far. Dusty, I think, very much vastly outperforming what was said of them. The NLC first seed versus LFL first seed. Typically, that's only gone one way. It's gone towards the LFL, but in this one, LDLC on match point. backs against the wall. Need to find themselves, problem solve the way out. Exit kick, looking to start something.
Yeah, Spider-Man comes back out though, Stand with the Rat-a-tat-tat, the Glacial Fissure, and that's just enough to make sure he secures the kill. Now Denboxna, he's
here as well.
He's here, but Yike, he knows he's going to try maybe to make this one work. They get the TP out, that's going to be the Jacks coming down towards this bot side. You would love to try and make this one work, but now Lince's in a little bit of trouble, but they are in a bit of a choke. I was going to say that could have been a massive fear there. Great flash there available, but they're going to bring in Ragnar with the ultimate flash wave. Oh, the stun was almost perfect, but a cleanse comes in at the last minute. We get him straight back into the fight. It's going to be a 5v4. There's just an absolute brawl right now around this fight. Yike trying to see if he can help out Doss as he's going to try and take down the Sejuani. He will. Then Voxna throws out a boomerang blade and he lands it, brings him right back into it. Now Kerberos looking for one more kill, not quite able to get it. Double kill for Yike, triple kill for Yike as the Wukong gets into this game. LDLC, they play with fire and they come out unscathed.
Backs against the wall. LFL first seed, LDLC find a fight which sets them up for success. This could have gone wrong at so many different moments because we were just saying they have to get creative at this point. They need to start figuring out how they can start leveraging their points of power. Comes through this 2v2. They have performed so well on an individual level throughout the entirety of this quarterfinals so far. This is when stuff gets a little bit tricky though. You've got a lot of people roaming down towards there, and Linces using the full value of that stopwatch gets a very actually difficult flash over the walls. Wondering if he was going to be slightly out of range, but I love how both teams just fully commit. They just go towards it and say, all right, okay, we're all inning, and so many skill shots, very, very close to hitting. Actually, if that Vexel hits onto Ica, maybe actually to get that kill there, they can start going on after that point. Then Voxna just about clears that kill up over the wall, but you can see how close it is. Even the counter-strike just barely missing Ragnar just after this play here as well. Dusty walking away, probably feeling a little bit awkward about this one, but so close to finding a miracle fight of their own.
We'll say, though, at the end of it all, it does end up being a 4-for-2 in favor of LDLC. So they bring the gold back, they get themselves their second dragon, but second Herald was completed by Dusty. So this game has exploded into a very scrappy affair, and we're starting to see now what both these teams have to offer, what both these teams want to bring to the table as they fight for their EU Masters lives.
Yeah, LDLC known as a team that is incredibly punishing to play against. You show that one weakness, they tear you apart for, and in that fight was bloody close. Very, very close to the wire. Dusty giving as good as they take, though, still even in gold. That fight actually just brings LDLC back to even. Yike, though, so much gold, has an ultimate.
He's going to go in on the Stand, who's the target right now. Goes golden and should be going down. They know he's pretty much dead. Never mind. Oh, he nearly got himself out of that one, but have they overextended right now? It might just be a little bit too much. They drop down the Rift Herald as Kerberos is trying to make sure he can make this one work. The doom and gloom right onto the backside means they do end up picking up a return kill. Look at the Sivir, the reset, and they're nearly getting it, but Ike's got more, and it's a mess in the jungle. It's a full-on brawl, but LDLC taking 5-for-3.
And it's an ace for like 1 second because Stand respawns right at the end. LDLC, they all in towards the scraps and they come out with a bloody nose, but they've broken the backs of Dusty 2 times in a row. Herald does actually hit the tower. But this is what happens when you have an initiating champion who does damage like Wukong, getting this far ahead this early on into the game. Someone just disappears at the start of the fight. I mean, credit to Dusty for realizing that actually there is a window for them to win at this point, particularly with the Vexel on the side. I was very worried when you have the Braum shield up, you got the Braum ult, you've got Twitch firing through it, but one thing which happens when you go very far forward into the enemy territory is that sometimes you end up artificially flanking yourself because you've gone so far into enemy territory that someone gets a flank. And very nearly does Backlund clean up this fight. Does clean up a number of good kills, but at the end of the day, LDLC just about get away with it.
I mean, Ica in that fight was just so well positioned to get those resets, get himself the Spirit Rush, and continuously put himself into a fantastic point. I will say, Linces, unfortunate, he 100% did not mean to drop that Rift Herald. He definitely wanted to have a sweeper to try and see if they had vision, but it is what it is, and they still get the charge off.
It's a happy little accident.
It is a happy little accident the way it happens, but yeah, again, despite the 6-kill lead, it's still actually dead even on gold.
Yeah, I mean, you have side lane starting to open up. I mean, LDLC haven't hit towers at this point, Moda. Exegek, you probably don't want to be there. Flash is coming up.
I mean, they're just going to jump fully onto him. He flashes and uses his cleanse. Now Sten maybe going a little bit too far forward. Kerberos right on the backside, jumps onto the Twitch, and they traded it back. It's a Twitch for a Nautilus, but now look at Ica. He's moving, he's dancing and weaving into this fight, making sure that he is the carry, gets himself a double kill, gets himself a reset, and he's going to go back on the curve. Kerberos. He knows he's got himself an opportunity to maybe turn back this fight. Backlund and Yike having a little bit of a 1v1 and ends up going Yike's way. So after it all, it's very scrappy, but it's still a 4-for-1. I think Dusty are getting a little desperate.
And that fight is a wonderful example of why, when it comes to the scraps, you gotta keep your eyes on Ragnar and DOS, because as soon as that pick starts off, Ragnar's ult comes through. DOS has got the shield in the right place, and Dusty have to work that extra bit harder to finish off the first kills. Buys them enough time. Curve actually potentially looking to make something one charm lands.
Charm, he just held it. Keistered it very nicely, waiting for any kind of movement to come out. Kerberos does eventually go down for what we'll call a delayed ace. But yeah, this is LDLC starting to steamroll through Dusty.
What a ridiculous fight. Because this is, again, just watch what happens here. Because Ornn is just about in range. DOS, just about in range. Flashes in, and suddenly you've got the bouncers there. No entry into LDLC's club for Dusty. Kicked out onto the street, and they just go a little bit too late. Maybe if Backlund teleports in a little bit earlier, maybe there's a way you get some resets rolling. But I think at this point, you're starting to see that LDLC, if they manage to get everyone there at the same time, they have enough staying power to shut out Backlund, particularly from these fights.
And this is, again, the power of the Braum. You see how long it took them to actually kill off this Twitch with full summoners because of the door, because of the Glacial Fissure, because of several different abilities just kind of putting up massive amounts of issues as we get ourselves another Medjai's. You've highlighted it, which means it's got to go away. He's going to die now.
Well, I have to see
LDLC fans blame him. I said nothing. I was Vive la France all the way, but Ike, oh my god, I called it. Oh my lord, I might have called it. Oh my god, they're going to try and save off their mid laner, but does he get himself away? He should be able to keep himself alive. He should be able to keep going, but he's stunned, and he's going to get taken out by the dragon. One more auto attack onto him. Kerberos goes over. Ike stays alive, but just about. Ike has gone a little bit too far forward, but so did Kerberos. I genuinely thought he was going to lose it. I thought it was going to be the greatest call of my history.
Ridiculously close. Only 100 HP after that point, but
it's
still
4v4.
Yeah, I mean, they know that Ike has no teleport. They know that he's just recalled. He's not at the fight.
Yeah,
This doesn't have the ult, though.
Yeah, give it up. You don't need to fight for this one right now, Dusty. They know they're not that far behind, but they also know they don't need to be throwing another fight, which LDLC can just hand stiff them.
Serious credit to LDLC for just forcing the fights over and over and responding to them in kind. I actually feel like it's Dusty that have the onus on them to start slowing down the game, particularly start playing around side lanes. What you really need to do is find Backlund in position before the fight actually starts in earnest. You need to get the Nautilus combo while that Vexalt is within range, get that guaranteed in, because you need that damage now to finish off your target. You can also get Jax running down these side lanes. Be very important for Dusty to continually find their way into advantages away from these 5v5s. 5v5s is getting more and more difficult to you, particularly with those two blockers of the Ornn and the Braum doing so much work for them, but still Dusty looking to force the issue and actually going towards this Baron. Ragnar has a teleport, has ultimate. We'll have a chance to respond to this. I mean,
they don't know.
Screw it, they're just going for it again. Let's fist fight.
Yeah, they do know now, but Ragnar does have TP, so he can join here pretty much at any time. Exakick finally joining in with the rest of his team. They haven't dealt with the top lane, but they are going to force the teleport out. Is that just what they wanted from Dusty? As you can see, DOS going to be in a one-man army. Ike lands the charm on the perfect target, but they get the CC down on top of him. He's going to have to spirit push his way out of this fight. Gets followed here by Backlund, but he has no mana. One more auto attack would do it, but he gets himself the reset and the triumph, so he's not going to fall down. You try to go for it. I like the move here from Dusty, but they're just not executing.
And Dusty, they've been so bold this whole series. They've been going for plays, but in this game, the one that would see it out for you, it's not working out. You're going towards these 5v5s, you're forcing the issue, and you're falling behind the curve of the game. LDLC, they're just fist fighting stronger than you right now. And LDLC, they really want this game 5. And LFL first seed, not out yet.
Not out yet, indeed, but gotta be giving themselves some big props right now. They had to change the strategy. They've kept the Ahri, and honestly, Ica has really put in a performance in this particular game. It really feels like this now. If you're Dusty, you gotta be first picking this out, or you gotta be banning it away, because it is just too much comfort going over to Ica.
That also Exakick having an excellent game in his own way. Actually had position to do damage across the team fight rather than just the first person into it. I think it's one of the main reasons we have seen stuff like Twitch, Zeri, Sivir come up to prominence over stuff like the FLS, is that you end up hitting the entire team. You hit the backline through the front line. It's not just hitting that first target and burning them down. And Exakick in this particular game has been doing such a good job of just putting damage across everyone arrayed in front of him as they pile into the kill zone right in front of him. And now LDLC finally breaking open some turrets, finally breaking open the map. It's getting to a huge gold lead at this point.
DOS needs to be careful. doesn't have the Unbreakable left now, but they will clear out those wave minions. You don't have the inside track here as Dusty. LDLC have it on top of you, so you're not really able to kind of defend this. And just look at the vision control right now. You can see the Dusty. I'm trying to see if they can maybe jump onto Ragnar. Civarol has been used. That's on the hunt, but on the hunt for what? Because you're not gaining any meat from this.
Yeah, it's more of a gather. Oh, the hook, the blind hook!
Blind hook is good, but can they make it work? They're going to force the flash out of Exakick, but he turns right back around. Stend just cannot stand up against this switch. Too damn big at this point. 4-man, well, technically a 3-man's fear comes in. The flash in, not quite going to be enough to land the charm. As they're going to get the Cyclone on the backside of this one here. They found the Sivir, they found the Vex, and they found themselves a victory. It's all but assured right now for LDLC, as we're going to almost certainly be going to 5 games.
Oh, and once again, LDLC find themselves a grouped up fight, a 5v5. Dusty, they're not content to split the map. They're trying to look for these picks, but this is not the game to do it. Oh, Curb!
Curb, he tries, but the concussive blows means that he comes out with a bit of head trauma. Not quite sure he was. He was concussed and didn't quite remember what was going on. So sadly, shall we not be picking up the Twitch, the 9, 3, and 10 fully upgraded ult, or is mythic item as well as LDLC. They're starting to steamroll.
They are steamrolling, and no mercy in this game. Went over towards that red side, got themselves that last pick Braum, which is doing so much work at this point. Even if you have the crazy invisible hook, you're going straight into those bounces again. Exakick has both summoners, manages to get out of things, manages to free fire across it. If you can't land those kind of hooks and win the fight, you probably shouldn't be fighting at this point. I really do think they should have been splitting the map, and they have struggled to do that. I think ever since they lost control of the game, they just doubled down and keep doubling down into defeat.
And I mean, I love what Ica did there as well. He's got the Summoner spell book, so he immediately said, right, I'm going to pop down the exhaust. There's nothing that then Voxna can do. He jumps in, doesn't have to fully commit on it, because he's just kind of like, cool, I jumped in, but at the end of the time, I'm just exhausting you. I'm making sure you don't do damage. I'm making sure you're slowing yourself down. And yeah, Kerberos, hey, look, he's got to do something. I appreciate the effort. If we're going to give it to one team, you got to give it to the other. They have to try and go for something, and that something is now 10,000 gold behind.
Yeah, and it's...
Why did you finish off your Medjai's, Backland? Why? You just died. He didn't have that pre-fight.
So, Black
I know the thing, but just...
Hang on. Let me explain to you the lore of the library here. Welcome. Enjoy your stay. The whole idea of getting a blank Medjai's is that one okay fight where you live suddenly gets you into a point of relevance, particularly when you are behind. It is a Hail Mary, much in the same ways that you're looking for these big fights. Kerberos is looking for his own Hail Mary of his own sort. Doesn't have a flash. Gets an ultimate outside, though. Oh, that's a dead box there. Yeah,
he's not going to be able to win this one here. You just lose the 1v1. Exakick's just got more damage than you because he's got 3 items, and they kill off Kerberos in the end, and that's going to be a 26, maybe even 27 to 7 kill score coming out right now, because he was just mid. Now he comes out topside. That's how the map works right now for Dusty. They do not have any quadrant that they can call home that isn't their Nexus.
You versus the Medjai, she tells you not to worry about. Gosh, these mid laners have been so different in their impact on this game. Ica continually pushing forward the tempo, and LDLC, no mercy in their 2 wins.
No mercy in their 2 wins, but that just gets them a shot at a 5th game, a 3rd win for either of these teams, as we are going to Silver Scrapes. It went the full 5, and you know what? I don't think anyone would have called this game going full 5 in any universe.
No, and